Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's episode of Dads, Not Always on Wrestling, although this week is wrestling. I am, of course, JEFF Meacham, the West Coast Professor. To my left is the Renegade JJ Williams, as is every other Friday here on the JEFF Meacham Network. Been a fun summer. We had a lot of great retrospectives, talked about the Great American Bash, talked about SummerSlam and summer songs, and it's just been and baseball movies we had, and just it's been a fun little group of shows. This show, I'll be honest with you guys, we have not rehearsed anything we're about to do. We are going into this completely blind almost, except for one thing I do have prep, which we'll get to momentarily. So today's topic, it's heavier than heck, but I realized that I put this hat on that I forgot that when the Kings won their Stanley Cup in 2012, that the staff laid this hat at the site at Ground Zero where Ace and Mark's names are. I thought, oh, geez, that's right. Cock is stinky. So, but I figured go for it. We are not going to watch the whole show, because I don't want an entire hour and a half of my channel dedicated to stuff I can't use later. But I do want to talk about the September 13th, 2001 episode of SmackDown, because today, if you're watching in real time or whatever on the premiere, today's September 11th. And I can't, people outside...
19 years to the day.
19 years. I can't believe it's been 19 years. That just... Wow. It's, we're all at different points in our lives now than we were 20 years ago. There's no way around that. But I remember so vividly each and every step I took that day, where I was in this house, where I was when this show went live that Thursday, the 13th, which is what we're talking about, that SmackDown. And again, I found myself going backwards in time and remembering everything I felt about that week and about that day, that Tuesday that Vince talked about. And we haven't talked about this a whole lot, you and I, on the air. And I've, kind of verbal diarrhea about it a lot in the last 18 years of my career. Where were you at in your life the morning of September 11th, and then when this show aired 2 days later?
Where I was in my life, I was still... And I don't like to admit it, but I was still that snotty kid, even though I was a lot older, because of, you got to figure our age difference. But I was that snotty kid that was like, why the hell are all my TV shows being preempted? Why can I not watch what I want to watch?
Right.
Why is the news overtaking everything?
Yeah.
Like, I got that it was serious. I got that it was something catastrophic, something we had never really seen probably since like the Challenger disaster, as far as magnitude of, oh my God, what just happened. Hopefully something we will never really see again. This pandemic is coming pretty close that we're in, but it still was not a terrorist attack. Unless you subscribe to the conspiracy theory.
Right.
Which is not getting all that.
Yeah.
But I was the stuck-up kid that was like, why aren't my shows on?
Right.
It took me a long time to process what happened, so now I can reflect back on what a tragedy it was and how devastating it was. And seeing the footage now impacts me a lot more than it did back then.
Yeah.
As far as the night that this aired, I was in front of my TV.
Yeah, right.
I'm not a big popcorn guy, but, paint the image of the guy in front of his TV with his popcorn in his lap, soda right next to him, like, okay, I'm going to be thoroughly entertained tonight because this is the first outing of its type.
Yep.
What we watched in the ring, that speech, was not Mr. McMahon, the character.
Yep.
That was Vincent Kennedy McMahon, the man.
Yep.
And that was a theme that was going to run all throughout the night with speeches and in-ring action. There was very little storyline development, much like there wasn't a whole lot at Raw as Owen.
Right.
A couple years prior. These matches that were thrown out there were matches that kind of sort of moved things forward because we were still in the midst of the invasion.
Right.
Without being too storyline driven. It was more stuff that was going to entertain.
Right.
First match of the night out the gate was the Hardy Boys.
Yeah.
For a reason. We just went through all of that, and stuff that we haven't even talked about yet. We should probably backtrack. But we just went through all of that, the speech, some Lillian Garcia singing the national anthem.
Right.
Superstar thoughts, like we had at Raw is Owen. And once we got through all that, what's the first thing we're going to give the crowd to try to get them over this? Hit those drums and throw out the Hardy Boys.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and those.
To this day, I still have Lillian's version of the anthem from that night downloaded. And whenever I make a CD of wrestling themes back, like I did back in the day, it would be the current WWE signature, right into the national anthem, into the show theme song of the time, and then you start going to the theme songs.
Yep. Thank God for technology now. We can actually do that just MP3 style instead of having to make a CD all the time.
Hey, God damn it, I still like my CDs.
I know.
But yeah, so I was the guy back then that was so over the nightly news, talking about it for days, weeks, months on end.
I was say, who knows, US style.
Can we just move on to other stuff, please?
Right. Yeah, I'm
not proud of it, but that's
no. And see, I'm not proud of the fact that I'm like that now because again, this is going to sound so dumb and so selfish of me to say this, right? But I'm the stay-at-home dad. I'm the work-from-home guy. I have my routine in place. I've had that routine since the start of the year when I started the network. I have my quirks about me, okay? I want to, at 11:30, turn on my show and watch my Young and the Restless. I do. And that's weird. I don't care. I understand that Governor Newsom needed to update us every day, and that's wonderful, okay? But the Governor Newsom is the governor of California. The last time I checked, California is in the Pacific time zone. Now, if we're being encouraged to go back to work in our actual out-of-the-house workplaces, 90% of his audience is going to be people that stay at home and watch their stories or game shows, or they have their kids on. They want to watch, Paw Patrol, or actually, no, can't watch Paw Patrol. God forbid. I said the P word. Oh, God. I'm in trouble.
Case is on the case.
Right? Yeah. I'm scared. We don't need to know what's going on that you're telling us at noon. You can have the guy at 6 o'clock tell us the exact same thing. And most of us are home by then. That's my bitch with now. 2001, again, I've said it over and over again, but
for those who are new to your channel and haven't heard you say it before.
Right. 2 weeks before the tragedy, I had my own tragedy. I was an idiot, 18 years old, and ended up falling off the hood of a car that was in motion in a parking lot down here locally. And it has forever shaped my life. Behavioral patterns, vision, hearing loss. And the first 2 weeks, I could not be left here by myself. I was in need of supervision. I was in need of help getting to the John or getting to the shower to bathe or anything. So the routine was put in place where when I came home after the first week of being in the hospital, I came home the Sunday after. So I was in the hospital for about 5 nights. And starting that Monday, which would have been the 3rd, my dad would leave to go to work at, whatever it was, 6:30 every morning. There'd be an hour and a half or so where I'd be by myself because Mom was still working East Coast hours back then because she was, working in an office where they're based in Maryland. And I would get woken up by about 8 o'clock, 8:30 by my grandmother. She'd be there with me for the day. That's how it went down. So the morning of the 11th, I went to bed that night after watching the Stone Cold, Kurt Angle, Rob Van Dam hardcore title shenanigans the night before because it was entertaining. I was a fan. And about 5:30 or so, I get woken up by my dad, who's freaked. And he's getting ready for work. Why are you freaked? Didn't register in my concussed head that he said something about New York, and I whatever. Honest stuff from Frozen. No, I'm good. Whatever. Blew him off. And my grandmother showed up at her usual time at 8:30 or so, and she's telling me the same thing. So 11:30, I come out of my room because back then I had an actual room with a door and a wall, 4 walls. And I came around the corner there, and I turned to look at the camera to get ready to watch Young and the Restless, and I see the replay of the second plane going to the towers. And I knew in that moment what had been going on the previous 6 hours of my blowing people off and whatever. And in a weird way, I knew the world had changed forever. It was completely, nothing was ever going to be the same. Yeah. And we found out later through the course of communication channels and whatnot that people we knew were on, God, I forget what flight Ace and Mark were on now. Couldn't tell you. But two of our scouts that worked for the Los Angeles Kings were on one of the planes that hit the tower. So we had a semi-personal connection to what had happened. Also, that same week, my maternal grandfather, who had been sick going into the week, took a turn, and my mom and my aunt were unable to fly. So they started making the drive the morning of SmackDown. They got as far as the end of the street, and the phone call came in that they weren't going to make it in time. So as morbid as this will sound, when we watched Extreme Rules 10 years later, and we got home to the news from the girls that they had gotten bin Laden, and I reacted so boisterously, that's why. Because bin Laden took away my mother's ability to say goodbye to her father in person. So, yeah, that's dark, but that's how I felt. Other than bathing or sleeping, I didn't leave the couch for the next week. I sat on the corner of the couch and just could not get enough information from the TV about what was happening, why it happened, who was involved, what was involved. It just, I joke now with everybody when I do Rewind with Greg that I've got him in the headset and the WWE Network in the ears, and I've got the monitor here, and I just, my best friend jokes of information overload and how my brain has, because she doesn't understand that type of overload without, being so stoned it doesn't matter first, right? She's like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I always have. It's just been who I am. So, but to be 18, have your eggs completely scrambled in your head, and to be able to try to sit there and absorb all that, it got to the point where I think I knew more about the 9/11 attacks than President Bush by the time the week was over, just because there was so much of it to absorb. And SmackDown was the most welcome damn thing I think I could have ever imagined it being, because as Mr. McMahon said, as Vince said, it was the first gathering of its kind in the 2 days that since it happened. And we got to hear people like Bradshaw, who you and I have talked about this many times on both our networks and all our channels. If that Bradshaw had been WWE champion, I would have campaigned for him to be a champion for life.
I was going to wait till we got to that part of the broadcast, but yeah. I mean, seeing some of the superstars' candid thoughts, speaking as, Dwayne Johnson instead of The Rock, speaking as John Layfield instead of Bradshaw,
right?
Speaking as Adam Copeland instead of Edge.
Yep.
And speaking their real feelings is what made the show for me.
Yes.
You know, more so than the matches, because the matches, like I said, although they were entertaining, there was no real effect of a lot of those matches.
Which is why I really didn't
know titles were going to change hands.
No.
Sean Stasiak versus The Rock. Really? Come on.
Yeah. Talk about a tragedy if that title changed hands.
Sean Stasiak in WCW? Okay, maybe.
Maybe.
Sean Stasiak that came back to WWF?
No. Yeah, and to be fair, that's why we didn't watch this episode on Rewind on Wednesday, because the majority of it is talking. And while I can watch that show all day long because the messages are just so powerful and so pure, like you said, my audience would not, especially the audio portion of the audience would be like, okay, why are they talking? And if I play the audio throughout the whole show, I got no money. So,
gotta make money, gotta draw money,
we're not coming back. Well, no, we're coming back here next year, probably, Roddy. We'll see. God bless you. I miss you so much, Roddy. Fuck. Anyway, I'm sorry. It hit me when we were back in June that it had been 5 years for him and Dusty. I went, Jesus. Crazy. Anyway, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah. Again, I think it's so weird. I don't even know why I think this, but I think this show hit more of the audience on a mainstream surface than Raw is Owen, Raw is Eddie. When it was shown, Raw is Benoit. Because as powerful as the messages were about their friend passing, these people were so deeply affected by something that happened to all of us, wrestling fan or not, that the UPN audience that would just be casually tuning in, just have something to watch besides the damn news, would go, wow, these guys are actually deep. These guys are actually, they have feelings outside of their, brawl, stuff. So it's powerful on a level on that level that I didn't really think about at the time. But when you look back, it's like, wow, they actually, there was something there that would appeal in a weird way to a general audience. Like, you get the feelings about what happened on the 11th, but you're also getting a perspective you wouldn't expect. So
I agree with you on that. The reason I made the cringe face is because although I still, and let me make sure I stress this clearly so that your audience understands.
Okay.
Although I still adore Benoit, the talent, the performer,
right,
I would not lump Raw as Benoit in with the same as Raw as Eddie, Raw as Owen, or this. Simply because it was a highlight package at best. Almost like they suspected something more than what they let on at first.
Right.
They were showing matches and stuff from his DVD.
Right.
They weren't showing a tribute show like they did in the vein of Eddie and Owen.
Okay.
So I have a hard time lumping that one in the same vein as these.
Right, and
and that is when I think, not to get off track, but that is when I started to think that maybe something more was going on that we weren't being told when it came to the Benoit situation.
Now, I wasn't sure. I didn't even have it didn't even occur to me until Regal. When Regal said what he said, I went, huh. So, and Jericho mentioned that in Undisputed. We talked about that when Undisputed came out, because we bought it together and we got it signed together. So, along with those chairs that I don't even, where the hell are those chairs? Anyway, I don't know.
Probably at Teresa's somewhere.
Probably not anymore. Anyway, so yeah, I will concede that but what I'm saying is, in any event, the tribute shows, if you want to call them that, even though Benoit's more of a highlight than a tribute, those appeal to the wrestling fans. You're going to see wrestling matches. You're going to see wrestlers talking about a fallen wrestler.
And this is to more worldwide.
Yeah, this is a American-based company's employees talking about America. So, and that's
America.
Hashtag America. If you hashtag America on something, we Americans gonna watch. It's the way it's gonna be. We are very when it's convenient, we're very much the flag waving kind. And I say that with that asterisk, But
I was just gonna say, it took this incident to really start to bring people together. People that had been divided. There was no more line really that divided, rich, poor, working, unemployed, whatever division you want to make,
Now, I dare say
that line was erased for a while, and we were all just, and as sad as it is to say, it almost seems like it's going to take something else like that to bring the country back together.
Because we are so divided right now.
Talk about morbid. It's almost going to take something on that level again to bring the whole country back together the way that it's all divided right now.
What's so funny, and well, it's not really funny, I guess, but it's funny that I've been thinking like that, is, we were only really divided like that back then because of the way the election went down, the way the results came out, and people were like, fuck Bush, blah, blah, blah. And, God, again, I go back and forth with a 10-person debate. 5 of us will say Bush is a great president, 5 will say he wasn't. I feel that George W. Bush was a great human being and is a great human being to this day. And I feel that he did a wonderful job of, rallying us all together in a time where we were severely friggin' divided back then. It was we were in trouble. And I think that him going against what he was being asked to do and no, I'm going. He went to ground zero. I'm like, nope, I'm here to help. What do you need me to do? I can't picture anybody in a position of power now, be it president, whatever, anybody. I can't imagine them going and doing that now. I can't picture that happening. And the reason I say that is because right now, totally different thing. We can't just go be among each other and help out and be hands-on. If you're hands-on, you get sick, you die. So it's a totally different world. I do feel that, I do feel though that we are much more divided than we were 19 years ago. And I do feel, like you said, it's going to take something, hopefully not as cataclysmic, but definitely something as monumental to bring us back together. And whether it's the election in a couple of weeks, whether it's whatever, it's going to be a drastic thing, good or bad, to bring us together. And I would hope that I was hoping that we as wrestling fans would rally together and, realize that, as much as it sucks to not have live sports, live concerts, which, by the way, I fully intend at some point, and you can have me arrested if you want out there, if you're watching law enforcement, here you go. I'm going to find the person that started this outbreak. and I'm going to kill him if I'm not dead, because for the third year in a row, I'm missing Jason Aldean because of this shit. So there you go. So you're dead, dude. If I find you, you're dead. Third year in a row. I was hoping that the wrestling fans would be like, you know what? WWE's giving us something. AEW's giving us something. And instead, we're more divided than ever. Wrestling fans are so polar. They're on their own poles of the polar opposites. Like, if you're familiar with nobody else will get this except Jay and I, because we live in Long Beach together, went to the games together. Those climbing poles they have for the firemen that train around there by the Grand Station, you put 20 of those in a room, people would be in all those poles that have completely different stances on wrestling. It's ridiculous how we can't just dude, it's wrestling. Like, we know it's not the live crowd. We know it's not, what we wanted to see, but we're getting something. I would love nothing more than to turn on my TV right now and see the Kings play the Ducks, or the Dodgers play the Yankees, or something. And granted, we've been getting that the last few weeks as far as, baseball came back. Hopefully, I'm watching a lot of TV. I've been trying not to, but baseball was supposed to come back. We had the hockey. It was coming back step by step, but people have to bitch. And at this point in history, we all seem to stop bitching. Like, we got wrestling, we got Saturday Night Live back a couple weeks later, which was one of the best openings in the show's history, just because freaking Giuliani cracked on Laura, and Laura rolled right with it. It was so funny. It was awesome. So, I don't know. We're coming off on a tangent there. I apologize. But I feel that this show is something, the SmackDown we're talking about is something that, should be a broadcast every year, and go, by the way, when we all come together, this is what it looks like, and it's beautiful.
It is. It really is. And I agree. If you're going to do a tribute each year on 9/11, I feel like part of this needs to be a part of that tribute.
Right.
I feel Vince's speech, Lillian's version of the anthem, and Bradshaw's speech need to be part of any 9/11 tribute that are done to represent the WWE's portion in it, especially considering that they were the first.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like to crap on WWE, but they started the ball rolling.
Yep.
Like Vince said, we were asked to go back to work. We were asked to defend our liberties and our freedoms, and here we are. We're going to put on a show for you just like we always do. We hope that you're entertained by it, just like you always are. And let's get going. And then the next week, the 9/20 SmackDown, business was usual.
Yep. And I don't know why I do this to myself. I guess I'm just a glutton for tears, but I have on my rotation of Spotify songs is God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood. And I will never forget when he came out of Yankee Stadium after the attacks and did that song. I just it just, that I feel any 9/11, any sort of American tribute to anything should have Vince's speech, like you said, Lillian singing the anthem, Lee Greenwood singing God Bless USA, Bradshaw's speech just cause, stuff like that, the SNL opening, that's golden. It's certain things like that, stick out. So
for those of you that haven't watched this episode of SmackDown in a while, pause our show right now and bring up Bradshaw's speech from the 9/13/01 SmackDown. Because as Jeff touched on earlier, I have stated many times on my show, our show, his show, whatever show I've been on, when this has come up and the topic of champions have come up, I have not been quiet about my dislike of JBL as champion,
right.
Even though Jeff has put it a little bit more into perspective. But had they put the strap on the Bradshaw that spoke on this night, I would have had no problem with it.
Right.
Even though he was still, let's be real, a low to mid card guy at best at this point.
Right.
In the APA, the Acolytes, looked like that was not going anywhere. But when he spoke from the heart and he talked about, we will find you and we will hunt you and we will kill you.
Yeah.
Goosebumps.
Right. Yeah.
In the man speak.
That's it.
And had they put the strap on that man, I don't know if ratings would have jumped severely, but I think it definitely would have been a hell of a statement to make.
I think them card carrying, flag waving rednecks have been like, "Oh yeah, I'll watch that shit."
You want to talk about how The Rock was the people's champion?
Right.
That night, John Layfield spoke for the people, and had they put the strap on him, he would have been the people's champion at that moment.
Right. Now, granted, in a couple of weeks, Greg and I are going to watch Unforgiven from that year, and of course, they put the strap on Kurt, and God, the beautiful moment. I'll be honest with you, but
even if they had just let Bradshaw carry it until it got put onto Kurt,
right,
it still would have said something.
Right. Although, the Kurt's moment would have been in Pittsburgh, it would have been cool, but that Bradshaw beating Austin in any American city and then, getting it back the way he got it back with Regal or whatever later on, it still would have been a cool moment. And yeah, would Kurt lost his moment in Pittsburgh? Yeah, he would have. But you know what? Like you said, again, I put it in perspective for you. That John Layfield losing to John Cena at Staples in 2005 sent John to the rocket ship. He was gone. That was it. It was over. But John Bradshaw, APA Bradshaw, become the baby champion. It would have been so that it would have actually worked, I think. So, but again,
when you go back and you figure, Ron Simmons was WCW champion when he was still not much more than a tag team specialist, and Doom on again, off again at the time. For his running buddy to do the same thing 10 years later, roughly,
right,
in the competition, could have drawn that comparison right there.
I remember Ron, in storyline, Ron became world champion because Sting got injured, and they drew a lottery, and Ron won the lottery to face Vader. So, didn't hurt Dusty was booking, let's be honest. But, I'm sorry, Bill Watts was booking, but Dusty was, Dusty was right there, baby. Dusty was in Ron's corner, at ringside. So, but it's Ron, and it's funny, they didn't want to go really far with it. They didn't think they would go very far with it, but Ron was champion until December from August. So, something definitely resonated there. And I think that the powerful feeling of Bradshaw post 9/11 winning the world title would have been unique enough where it would have been, or different enough where people would have gone, I dare say, even if they really wanted to tug on the American heartstrings, if you will, Bradshaw as WCW champion against Stone Cold WWE champion in that unification match would have been interesting, if not feasible to the hardcore fan. Be like, wait a minute, really? This is the match? But no, according to Jericho's book, no different than Jericho being the undisputed champion.
True.
Of those four guys, Jericho, really? Okay, we'll buy that. People are about Bradshaw, I think. But again, we're going so far in the weeds. We're turning to X-Pac and RVD. So right.
Because it would be the Bradshaw that stemmed from that show. Right,
and as much of a pariah as JBL became later, it's I don't know if Bradshaw being so hated would have allowed for John Cena to be so universally loved for beating his ass that it would have worked. Because think about it, not too long after John became the champion, people already started, by SummerSlam, they were already crapping on him. against Jericho. So, it's I personally feel, and this is, again, this is me digging on the wrestling fans. So if you don't like me digging on you, please, there you go. There it is. There's the button. People are already starting to sour on John already going into the program with JBL. And I think that JBL was just so despised. It was like, God, anybody please beat his ass already. That's why people were clamoring for Undertaker to beat him at SummerSlam. People were clamoring for Booker T, who people didn't seem to like Booker T a hell of a whole lot, even in 04 and 05. So, and they wanted Eddie to win the title back. And they want, it's as it didn't happen, didn't happen. It was just like, oh my God, somebody for the love of God. But, once it was like, okay, he beat JBL, but we didn't like you before, so you can give the belt to somebody else now. That's how powerful JBL character was. Like, hate him or not, he's a powerful ass. So, but yeah, Bradshaw's speech was amazing. I dug that they allowed Stone Cold to be Steve Austin or Steve Williams. I didn't know if he changed his name yet or not, but to Steve Williams to just be very sobered and very, very chill and like, all right, this fucked up. Deborah, I think, was on that show, if I remember right.
Yeah.
She says, Deborah on these tribute shows, man, forget it. You're just a mess because she don't handle it well. God love her. But even Stephanie, who we've been trained for 2 years to just hate her with a passion, and we saw Stephanie McMahon. And it was different. It was cool. So just, it's one of those things where people get weird on me when they talk about the fact that I watch the Eddie Tribute show, but I actually bought the disc with the Eddie Tribute show on it that I, watch Raw is Owen, every year when the anniversary hits. I watch this show when I need a feels good, like because this show hits every patriotic point in my brain and in my heart, and it makes me remember a time where we weren't so F everybody and be like, Raven, what about me? It's like what about us? What about the flag there above me there? Stuff like that. What about us as a country? We don't think I got any more, and it's a damn shame.
It is.
So, okay, I think I'm preached enough for the last 45 minutes, or actually less than that, because we had 3 takes. So, jeez, one of those pooper shows, kids. It'll be up on the channel, I think. Hopefully, I'll get those saved. So, again, you can follow the Renegade each and every day if you want, each and every second. Just stay on that Instagram all the time. The Renegade J.J. Williams on Instagram. He's got his content up there. He's doing his thing. He's posting plugs from my channel, which God, I appreciate the hell out of that, which you can find, by the way, at youtube.com/Jeff Meacham. You can also find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. And yes, kids, I'm on Facebook. Yay! People ask me, why do you have 2 pages? Because you guys have been asking me for years to have a Facebook page that you can be a friend of. My other page is for, like, kin. Family, friends, both. So that's why. So check that out.
Jeff Meacham, the non-wrestling Jeff Meacham. That's
right. Although the non-wrestling Jeff Meacham tends to go on wrestling anyway, because I can never keep things separate ever, as we see on every Monday on Talk Wrestling. It just is what it is. Of course, NoDQ.com. There it is. For all your latest news, opinions, features, everything like that. And YouTube.com/AaronofNoDQ for his channel, which you can find the NoDQ review on each and every Thursday, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Next Friday, let's see, it's Friday. So yes, next Friday will be another episode of the Wrestling Trivia Challenge on YouTube.com/GregCherryBrand, which you can also find Greg Cherry at Twitter, Greg Cherry Brand, at Instagram, Greg Cherry Brand, and Teespring, Greg Cherry Brand, store Greg Cherry Brand. You can find all of Greg's stuff there. And after the NerdQ.com Wrestling Trivia Challenge, each and every other Friday, you can come to this channel for the post-game wrap-up, where you can find myself, more than likely Stat Boy. There you go. There's a shirt right there that Jay is wearing. You can find that shirt and more at the Greg Cherry Brand, as we said. And, of course, teespring.com/store/Jeff Meacham Network. There it is right there. You can find the shirt I'm wearing in yellow and red and yellow, red and yellow, red and yellow.
Hopefully someday soon there will be a Dad's on Wrestling shirt on that.
There very well might be already. I just am behind the times on my graphic design because, well, I'm lazy like that. So there's that. He is the Renegade. I am the West Coast Professor saying we will see you guys in 2 weeks for Dads Not Always on Wrestling.